This call is now being recorded.
Blumenfeld and members, Mr. Gil Cedillo, First Council District, and Mr. John Lee, 12th Council District. I'll ask now that the clerk call the roll so that we have an official accounting of members of the meeting.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Ask Mr. Mejia to call the roll.
I'm so sorry.
Good morning.
Job Creek.
Councilman Harris-Dawson. Councilman Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, present. Present. Go ahead.
Councilman Curran Price.
Present.
Councilman Gilbert Cedillo.
Cedillo, present.
Councilman John Lee.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Sorry, folks, I got no audio, so I'm trying to figure that out. If you can hear me.
Can hear him.
All right, can someone make some noise?
Hello?
I can hear you.
Are we?
A little bit. We're having a little trouble hearing you.
We can hear you, Mr. Chair.
Can I be heard?
I can hear you.
We can hear
All
you.
right. The people have heard you, Mr. Price.
Can you text Bob?
Yeah. To end the corruption. My mic is still on.
Okay, well, the chair has asked me as the vice chair to, while they're working on the technical difficulties, to get us started on item 1, which is the director's report. As the chair's mouthpiece, although we see him physically there, I'm going to ask Mr. Bertoni to just kick us off and give us the report.
Thank you, and thank you,
You're a friend.
Blumenfield. Thank you, Vice Chair Blumenfield, and I will just have, I will give the chair a summary of it later. I will give him a replay later.
So he can hear you. He just
yeah. Okay, great. So just for today's director's report, I'd like to follow up on my report from last time, which I talked about the department's efforts in terms of racial justice and equity. And one announcement I've made since last week is the appointment of Faisal Roble as Chief Equity Officer for the Department of City Planning. And many of you probably know Faisal through the years, but Faisal is someone, for me, as long as I've been in the department, I really relied upon him a lot in both formal and informal ways upon his knowledge and his wisdom over the years. So I wanted to give you all just a little bit. I want to have Faisal kind of talk a little bit about what his goals are, but I also want for people for the committee to kind of get to know Faisal a little bit better, since he's going to be playing a very important role and transformative role for our department. He started here as a planning assistant about 30 years ago and has worked in every division in the department. He most recently was our principal city planner in charge of our West Coastal and South Division of the Project Planning Bureau, which includes large parts of our city, including South Los Angeles, West LA, Venice, Harbor Gateway, and San Pedro. But prior to that, he was our senior city planner in the Office of the Zoning Administration. He oversaw all the discretionary projects in the city. From 2008 to 14, he managed the community planning update program for South Los Angeles, Southeast LA, and West Adams, Baldwin Hills, Leimert. And in that time, he really did a lot of innovative planning for the city. He really pioneered our community plan implementation overlay ordinances, the fast food ordinance, which the fast food ordinance was a real precursor to our community health element of the general plan. He also really oversaw the development of two projects that we've seen as being transformative, and with South Los Angeles, which is or very important projects, which is the USC Master Plan as well as the Jordan Downs Specific Plan. Faisal is someone who has really worked really hard and in terms of working with public engagement and collaboration with residents in South Los Angeles. I think those are one of the things that I think he is really known for. He is also someone who is really out there doing critical thinking and analysis in the fields of social justice, planning, and history. He's written extensively on that, on issues such as smart growth, new urbanism. He's originally from East Africa, and he received his Bachelor's of Art in Human Geography from Somalia National University. He also has a Master's of Arts in Afro-American Studies with an emphasis in political science, and a second Master's of Arts in Urban and Regional Development from UCLA. And he's received many awards over the years for all of his work. But I wanted to give you just a little bit of background in terms of who Faisal is, beyond what you may have seen in the past, because I think that his depth and experience is well, his understanding and experience is so deep, and it's very nuanced and multifaceted. And that's when we were going to create this role, we knew that's why I knew that Faisal was really ideal for this position. But I want to really kind of turn it now over to Mr. Roble, so he can kind of go through what a little bit about what the program is and how he sees it. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Faisal Roble now.
I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Vice Chairman and members of the committee. Let me thank Vince Bertoni for this introduction, and I'm profoundly honored to be appointed to this position, for I care some of the issues that I will be working on. I was here in 1992 when the civil unrest, some people call it the Rodney King unrest, took place, and I'm here today when the killing of George Floyd awakened not only us, but the whole world as to the issues that blacks and people of color in our society, and particularly in our city, face on a daily basis. Here you have two black men killed by our own police who are supposed to protect, and actually it's not the killing that's important, it's the trend and the meaning those killings sent to us. It was a rude awakening, it's a national awakening to us, and here we are to take advantage of this awakening, not only as people of color, but as a nation and as a society. As a planner, the killing of black men and people of color while they are walking, shopping, and playing at the parks, their neighborhood parks, really give us a special meaning, especially when you are an urban planner, because in most of our documents, whether it's the general plan or the community plan, we put languages that we care very seriously that call for to walk and shop and play in your neighborhoods. It looks like some of our community members, particularly blacks and people of color, cannot enjoy that God-given as well as policy-driven concepts that we put in our documents. So as a planner, as a black man, as a person of color, we really care what has been happening, and I see this disjoint between the safety element that our general plan carries and what's happening from the safety groups and the police and what have you. My responsibility in this new position would really try to enforce equity internally and externally. I will be closely working with Mr. Bertoni, whom I have developed close relationship for the years that we have worked when he was here some years ago and when he came back. I'll be critically examining racial justice and issues that have been impeding blacks and people of color in the planning department to assume leadership and to also have safe place to work so that they can look for when they are coming to the planning department. I will be looking at the processes as well as structural issues that some would call, and I would conveniently call, issues of racism that we think are, impeding our movement upward, as well as training and gaining some assignments that will help our team. As you remember, the mayor put together the executive directive number 27, which will be what's guiding in terms of a work program. And by September 16, the planning department and my office is supposed to come up with an action plan that mirrors the mayor's directive. In that, I will just give you a high-level 3 categories that I would like to be concentrating as I move forward in this new assignment. We'll be creating a safe workplace for blacks and people of color and everybody else in the planning department that translates the issue of equity in a meaningful way. I'll be looking at questions of racial justice within the employment of my office and the department. We will identify processes and issues that have been hindering some of our planning department employees, blacks and people of color, in terms of their movement, training, and assignment that are equitable. And I will come up with recommendations that pertain to hiring, promotions, and retention of blacks and people of color in the department. Having said that, my second category that I would be looking at would be policies and programs that are embedded in our community plans and general plans that have been sitting there, and make those meaningful tools to reach equity for communities of color in the city. The third area I would be looking and developing some sort of recommendations would be engagement with the community as well as with some key departments, council offices, and the mayor's office in the city. I would say key departments because some of our communities of color are within a short drive from the LAX and the LA port. These are massive, massive job-generating entities that the city owns. We cannot create equitable community in our urban areas if we don't also think of the jobs that they will be having within their neighborhood. So I think I will be revisiting some of the work that we have done when I was working with Valerie Shaw's mayor's cabinet that came up with a lot of recommendations and dig up. So my challenge would be to really resurface that. One area that I like to mention also is, and Vince gave me the green light to go ahead and dig deeper into the municipal code and see some of those ordinances and policies and programs that sometimes promote, knowingly or unknowingly, if you will, blight or what the chairman and his neighborhood call cluster of nuisance in some neighborhoods, the gas stations, the liquor stores, and what have you. So I think these three high-level categories are so far emerging as the areas that I will be looking at and coming up with a work program, and I will be more than happy every now and then to come in front of you and report to you as we develop our work program from here on. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Chair, if I could just kind of add to that, and thank you, Faisal. Just to kind of emphasize that I didn't in my introductory remarks. Faisal is now reporting directly to me, so that was really important to me that there is no intermediary or filter from what he's doing, and he's going to be looking both internally and externally, as he mentioned. Also, I always feel that nothing gets done unless it's somebody's job to do it, and it's not their full-time job, a good chunk of their job. Faisal won't be doing this by himself. We'll be bringing a few more staff along with him to form a team to really do all of this really heavy lifting, because I think it's important that he has that support to do it. We've also created a committee on racial justice, equity, and restorative planning, and so we have a committee that is up and running, which will really help be a steering committee. It's a very diverse committee of our staff of different levels in the organization, different at time and different experiences that Faisal will really be leading. So I'm really excited for this, and I hope that you see why if you see Faisal, you know him, you know why he's going to be just a great leader. He's been a great leader in the department. I think he's going to be a great leader in this effort. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Vince, for that report, and Faisal, congratulations and thank you for your service. I also want to thank our Vice Chair Bob for standing in there while I couldn't hear anything, but I got sound long enough to hear the meat of your presentation, Faisal, and so we thank you for it. I just want to bear witness to your work. Years and years ago, late 90s, early 2000s, you know, Community Coalition, we demand that somebody from planning come and answer for this liquor store that was a big problem in our community. And I remember then you would always say, look at the community plan, look at the zoning, look at all these things. And we would be like, we just want the liquor store closed. Like, just deal with it. And so you were like, no, if you don't deal with the plan, this problem will just be replaced by another problem. And a lot of community members came to understand the significance of those plans, and now as a result, South LA has some of the highest participation in the charrettes and the different community meetings that get done around community plans. And so I want to thank you for that, and also acknowledge that, you know, I think probably since the late 80s, I could be wrong about this, you can correct me, but there's been a core of African American planners in the Los Angeles City Department of City Planning that have been struggling to get voice and to raise the issues that you're working on, that you talked about today. In fact, and I've heard from many of them over the years, really decades, raise these issues. My question to you is, what kind of resources, or how do you expect the community to interact with you in this role, both, you know, former planners or people that are retired and moved on, and the community members that have been engaging around community plans for so long, who you all are the ones who help them identify, like, part of what's happening in your neighborhood is because it's planned to happen that way. How do you intend to interact with them in your new role?
I have been getting emails from former employees whom I have known for a while. I think the statement that the planning department also released right when this issue came to surface, we took the extra measure to really recognize former employees in our statement. Not only recognize them, but the struggles that they have put, you know, in the planning department. I will be holding forums, and actually, Vincent mentioned one of the highlights of my employment in this plan department is my public engagement with the community and the residents, as well as council offices that I've been working with for the years. So I'm thinking of holding regular, large and small forums to hear what the community, because we don't want to do planning in the vacuum or just, from our figment and imagination. I would also probably utilize, if resources permit, specialized consultants who are nuanced in equity and the tools of equity to reach out and get the best out of the community. This should be a community-driven effort in terms of getting the issues out as well as coming up with recommendations. So I'm already thinking, and it's in my last bucket that I shared with you, robust community engagement in the era of COVID-19 with the technologies and what have you. Our community plan process have already identified, but I want to take that to a higher level where the citizens of this neighborhood are really the driving force, asking us questions, including identifying some of the impediments, as I said, that have impeded good planning, restorative planning that Vince and I are calling, or even employment issues, because as you know, some of the neighborhoods in South LA have been advocating for process changes even in terms of the employment, because they felt some of their advocates, like the ones that you have mentioned who probably retired or left the department, had issues. So we want to engage both of them, the retired and those employees who left the department, but at the same time, residents who care about the planning department, the employees, and the issues that they face in their neighborhood. So I'm thinking of this forum. I will solicit your help, all the council offices who also want to participate, and see what we can come up with.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you. One more, Mr. Price, one more question for Vince before I go to members. And Mr. Bertoni, I just want to know what do you need from us? How many staff positions will be working with Faisal? Do you need us to take a look at resources? We want to do everything we can to make sure this venture that you stepped out to put in place is successful.
Well, resources are always important, so I'd like to have that kind of dialogue with Clem on it. I think that what we want to do is make sure this is as successful as possible. So we have internal resources. The one thing we're going to also be looking for is some help from external resources, such as consultants, to help us, because we need to create safe, because as Faisal had mentioned, we need to look both internally and externally. And internally especially, we need to create safe spaces for our employees to have a conversation. Those voices, this is about uplifting voices and hearing voices we typically don't hear. And so we'll be trying to look for resources, for some, to try to be able to do that, as well as some external too. So that's going to be what we're going to be looking for. And if I should have the moment is what you mentioned with when you were at Community Coalition and how Faisal helped direct you. Faisal's done that for me too. In the 12 years I've been here, because as a deputy director, I just want to get something done. I say, hey, can we fix this problem? He's like, well, let's look at the root cause of it, and let's go to the root. And we've had so many of these conversations about these issues of equity, where Faisal has an ability not just to lead below to the side, but he can lead up. He can really lead up, and I think that's something that's going to be really important. But thank you for that question, and there will be probably some things we'll need.
Thank you, Mr. Price.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to join you in expressing my pleasure with Faisal's appointment. This is an exciting development, not just for the department, but for the city. Faisal has really been a strong voice for involvement. He certainly has helped to increase our understanding, the community's understanding. I'm talking about Black and brown community's understanding of the importance of planning and land use. That's been the mantra. Got to get it in the plan. And helping us understand it and helping us make sure that it's working for the community that we represent. So, Faisal, I just want to say thank you, man. You got the training, the background, the experience to do this job. And I know for many, in and out of the department, you've been doing that job already. Because you've been a sounding board, you've been a voice of reason. If you've been one.
It's a rough morning on technology. You froze, Mr. Price. Just FYI. I don't know.
Should I step in, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, Mr. Cedillo.
So, Faisal, I'm very excited for you and pleased with these developments. Let me say that I have a focus or an interest on this, what we would call the intersection between poverty and race. And when you look at the city, when you look at the zoning, we want to make sure that we don't have a type of apartheid through zoning, and that we need to make sure that we reevaluate. I mean, this is an opportunity to do a complete reevaluation and a relook at those policies to look at what results are coming out of them with respect to place in the city. How is it, and how can we ensure that our communities get supermarkets, get retail that we want, how do we enable small, authentic, organic businesses? How do we end the results that end up with the better supermarkets, the better stores, the movie theaters? I covet a movie theater in my district. I covet live theater in my district. There is an abundance of cultural and artistic talent that comes out of my district, that comes throughout the city, and we're not capturing it. We're not building the social infrastructure for that to be part of the, what we are in Los Angeles, a very talented, culturally rich service economy, and all the things that are related to that. How do we do this through planning and undo some of the segregation that exists through the planning process, through the codes? Because this is a real opportunity for us to redo, and at the end of the day, it's going to be the results of the engagement, the results of the dialogue that matter most to the people in the community. They want to see that they no longer have to take a bus or take a drive to go see a movie, to go shopping, to visit a park or a museum. And the talent exists in our districts. There's no one who can convince me that it doesn't. And so what we're looking for is your leadership to help us get to that point. I'm dependent upon you, Vince, the good friend and the visionary. I'm dependent on you guys to show me how we can do that. So welcome to your new post.
Thank you.
Mr. Blumenfield.
Great, thanks. Faisal, I want to add my voice here and welcome you. Excited. Planning has a history. It has been in times has been a tool of exclusion, and we want to make sure that it is a tool of inclusion and embraces diversity. And I know that you care about the mission and you're up for the challenge, and I want to make sure that we are supporting you in every way that we can across this entire city. And I'm thrilled that you're taking this on, and Vince, thank you for formalizing this. And I just look forward to working with you on it. So thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Faisal, I want to join my colleagues. I can't think of a city department where a position like this is more needed. And I'm sitting across the room from my Chief of Staff, Hannah Lee, who said there's no person more qualified to be in this position than you. She's worked with you over the years. And so I look forward to working with you, and very excited about this position. It's something that I think the city desperately needs. So thank you.
All right, thank you, members, and I want to thank our director and Faisal. Congratulations and thank you. You should be, as you have always done, keep the plum meetings on your calendar, because this won't be the last time we ask to hear from you on these matters. We're going to want to see what progress you're making, what challenges you're facing, and what barriers there are, and how we can be helpful in achieving this goal, because it's important to our whole city, as members have pointed out, both what kind of city we are internally, but also what type of city we help bring into existence. So again, thank you, and thank you for your vision and passion on this, Mr. Botani. We will receive and file the director's report, Mr. Mejia, without objection, and then we will begin our proceedings with item number 6. If you could read that into the record, I believe after that we'll hear from staff.
Yes, committee members. Item 6 is a categorical exemption. It's a report from the East LA Area Planning Commission, and it includes an appeal filed by Catherine Goodes from the Lucille Avenue Neighborhood Association. She's appealing the exemption from CEQA as to a preliminary parcel map. It's for a subdivision of 3 small lots located in CD 13.
Excellent. So I believe we have a report from staff, Department of City Planning. There are additional findings.
Yes, good morning. This is Jane Choi for the record. Would you like just the changes read into the record or the entire report for the item?
I think just the changes, if that's satisfactory to the city attorney.
Sure. So staff submitted for the record for the Plum Committee's consideration the revised notice of exemption and justifications transmitted and posted on June 26, 2020, and reflected in the Council File 18-0107.
Thank you so much. Okay, now that that's been read into the record, we'll begin our public comment. And folks, members, and everybody on the call, you should note that we have upwards of 50 people in the queue. During the public comment, city staff will call on members of the public by the last 4 digits of your phone number. Once you are unmuted, please state your name and the item you are calling to speak on. Members of the public wishing to speak on one agenda item shall have an opportunity to speak for 1 minute. Members of the public wishing to speak on more than one item shall present all comments during the multiple agenda item comment section of the meeting, which will be the whole public comment time. They shall be allowed a total of 2 minutes to speak on all items. And so with that, we will ask that we go to our first callers.
Caller 3794, you're now unmuted. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on. Caller 3794, you're now unmuted. Caller 1125, you are now unmuted. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Hello. Let's see.
Caller 1125.
Yes, I'm here, Daniel Kiefer.
Please state your name and then the item you'd like to speak on. You're now unmuted. You can go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you, chairs and members, for allowing us to speak. I'm talking about the Walter Bolenbacher Duplex at 1054 South Orange Grove in Los Angeles. I'm a professor of English at the University of Redlands in San Bernardino County, but I lived very happily in this apartment at 1071 South Orange Grove for 24 years. It's a lovely duplex, and it's really the center of our block. I spoke to the previous owner as he was making plans to sell the home where he had lived as a child and where he had raised his 2 sons, asking him to preserve the home in order to preserve the neighborhood. It's a marvelous example of the best residences in this part of the city for its graceful style, its humane architecture, and the home, by its very presence, helps to preserve an ethnically diverse neighborhood of young families, young and old single people, many of them longtime residents. There's a whole block just south of us here that's been given over to huge apartment buildings, 2 of them. And those would be very appropriate on Pico or Olympic or any of the large boulevards or avenues. But this is a quiet residential enclave, really.
Speaker, that's your time.
Thank you very much.
Members, we're going to take a 5-minute recess so we can figure out this public comment section. It's a little more complicated here because we got appellants and applicants, and they have special lines and all that. So give us a minute. We'll figure it out. Thank you. All right, members, if you are around, we want to resume our meeting. I see Mr. Lee. I see Mr. Cedillo's great artwork. I see Mr. Price. I see Mr. Blumenfeld's chair. So there's 3 of us now, so I think we can resume. Mr. Mejia, can you give further instructions on a public comment? It's a little bit different today because we got to hear from the applicants and appellants first, and then we'll go with regular public comment.
Yes, Councilman. As far as applicants and appellants, they should stay on the Zoom call for the entirety of the meeting in case council members have questions. Applicants and appellants will receive 3 minutes to speak.
And so we'll go to the applicants and appellants for all the items that are appeals today. We'll go to them first, and they'll start by telling us their name and their status as an applicant or appellant. They'll get 3 minutes, and we'll go through all of that. Then following that, we'll take general public comment. All right? And I see we've been joined by Mr. Blumenfeld and Mr. Cedillo. I think that's your shoulder. Yes, Mr. Cedillo is there. He is. In the house. All right, so let's go to public comment by our applicants and appellants.
Item 4, owner. You now have the floor. You have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes. Hello. Can everyone hear us?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, fantastic. I am the representative for the owners of the subject site, and I hope this is the one that we're on, of the 1054 Orange Grove project. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Well, first and foremost, thank you all for hearing the matter this morning regarding the site located at 1054 and 1056 Orange Grove. First and foremost, I want to take a second to let the committee know that we take this matter of historic preservation of any and all structures in the city of Los Angeles very seriously. I've worked with council offices as liaisons between the community members and owners. By the way, Athena Novak with AHN and Associates. Forgive me. It's a little bit different having these Zoom meetings. I've worked with council offices and liaisons between the community members and owners when projects such as this do not meet the 3 criterions required to be designated as a monument. So even though the findings come from maybe an independent report or the City of Los Angeles Planning Department that the subject site does not meet the threshold, we still work with the community members. I've worked with Hollywood Heritage. I've worked with Councilman Mitchell Farrell's office in CD13, and I've, of course, worked in CD5, CD2, all projects that we've reached happy compromises with the community members, with the council offices being liaisons between the owners and the community. Please know the first line of action we took was to retain the services of Environmental Science Association. It is called ESA as an acronym, and I will refer to them as the ESA from here forward. And they prepared a historic resource assessment report. The purpose of the report was to identify and evaluate potential historical resources located at 1054 and 1056 Orange Grove. Dr. Margarita Jarobrak, a very highly regarded and qualified architectural historian, headed the project, and Hannah Weitzermid conducted the site survey, all the research of the California Park and Recreation records, county tax records, building records, etc. ESA's extensive research and reports concluded the subject site lacked both historical significance and architectural integrity to convey any significance under any of the applicable eligible criteria. The council motion from Councilman Herb Wesson directed the Los Angeles City Planning Department to prepare a report and recommendation of the proposed designation. Both of these parties did independent reports but came to the same findings. The City of Los Angeles Planning Department's conclusion was the final report submitted said to the Cultural Heritage Commission was to recommend the site not be declared as a cultural historic monument. The duplex does not meet the criteria designated under the Cultural Heritage Ordinance. That was the City of Los Angeles Planning Department's findings.
Your time's up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 5, appellant, you now have the floor for 3 minutes.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. You have 3 minutes.
Yes, Jim Childs for the North University Park Community Association, and I would like to yield my time at this point to our attorney, Dean Wohlrath. If Dean's there.
One moment.
I understand he's waiting to speak.
You now have the floor for 3 minutes.
Hello? Is Dean there? Have you connected to my attorney?
Yes, so Dean Walraff, you now have the floor for 3 minutes. I've unmuted you.
This is Craig Bullock with Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell's office. I'm not sure this is the right item for me.
Have you not found my attorney?
Mr. Childs, you're going to have to go on because we're not able to connect with your representative.
Well, he's in the queue. I understand that he's registered with his number, and we gave your people his number yesterday so that he would be recognized under these circumstances.
So, Mr. Childs, we're going to start your 3 minutes, and we'll do our best to find out where he is. But
I'll keep talking, and if he pops up, then maybe he can say hello to you.
Hi, Mr. Childs. We've located Dean Walraff, and we've unmuted him, so he's now connected to this call.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And have you told him that? Wow.
Yeah, so he's been unmuted. He's been notified he has the floor.
Please start the clock.
The clock has been started.
Well, absent my attorney, let me tell you that my appeal today is an appeal on CEQA, and that the Planning Department erred when they issued the CEQA approval for this complex case. The project is in the Adams-Normandy Historic Preservation Overlay Zone, and it doesn't conform to the HBOZ Preservation Plan. I would ask the boards, the decision makers, to look at the aerial site view and the comparative block face illustration that the applicant supplied, and ask you to look at this streetscape and tell me that this bloated behemoth looks like it's in harmony with the preservation plan. The building is next door to the First Zion AME Church, which is Los Angeles Historic Cultural Monument number 341. The church's eastern stained glass windows are overshadowed by the project's 60-foot high facade. There was not, as I had requested multiple times, a light and shadow study for that relationship.
Hi, Mr.
West
Childs.
Adams Boulevard. Yes?
Your time is now up. The 3 minutes have passed. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being helpful.
Wait, so I have to... Item 5, applicant, you now have the floor for 3 minutes. Once I've unmuted you, the time does start.
Great. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have the
Great.
floor
Hi,
now.
my name is Henry Fan. I just want to thank everyone for their time in these unprecedented situation and current time. Our proposed project for 5 stories, 45 units, includes over 3,000 square foot of ground floor retail, 70 parking spaces, and almost 40 bike parking spaces. We spent about 2 years on this project, and we have received a unanimous vote of support from Neighborhood Council. We've also received a favorable and approval from the Adams-Normandy HBOZ Board. We also received approval from the following associations: the Adams-Normandy Neighborhood Association, the West Adams Neighborhood Association, the Van Buren Place Community Association. We also went to the adjacent stakeholders. The AME Church next door to the west also gave us a letter of support. The 76 gas station to the east also gave us a letter of support. We went and canvassed the neighborhood immediately north or behind the proposed project, and we got 75 signatures from the residents living there. So we have received a tremendous amount of support for this project from the neighborhood council and neighborhood associations and residents surrounding the project. So we therefore feel it's a project that the community and the neighborhood do want. As for CEQA, the project is category exempt from CEQA. None of the exceptions to the categorical exemption under CEQA guidelines apply to this project. The proposed project will not result in a significant cumulative impact from successive projects of the same type in the same place. The project does not involve unusual circumstances. The project will not damage scenic resources in a state scenic highway. The project site is not listed on a government code section related to hazardous waste sites. The proposed project conforms to the Adams Normandy Preservation Plan and the Secretary of Interior standards. Therefore, it will not cause substantial adverse change in the significance of historical resources. Again, this project was approved by the Adams Normandy HBOZ in a vote of 3-1. Thank you very much for your time. Hello?
Thank you. We will now go to item 6, appellant. You are now unmuted. You have 3 minutes. The time has started.
I cannot tell if it's me. It's Catherine Gudas. I am the appellant for the Lucille Avenue Neighbors Association, and this is in regard to the development at 1347 Lucille Avenue. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. We filed an appeal to the categorical CEQA exemption related to that development in 2018. Between then and now, the 1923 bungalow and trees on the site have been demolished, and 3 luxury single-family buildings constructed on the small lot subdivision, all of which have been sold or are pending sale, I believe. This development is within the Child Heights Tract Residential Historic District, which according to Survey LA appears eligible for both California Register and local designation, significant and an intact example of a residential development adjacent to a major streetcar line. The developer prepared a historic resources assessment report in which they assert that although the property is assumed to be a contributor to a potential historic district based upon age, the potential historic district would continue to be eligible for designation and convey its significance with the loss of a single contributor. There are many points in this that I disagree with. First, the CEQA exemption should not have been approved in order to study the site and determine that it was indeed contributing to the eligible district, as determined by OHR. Second, the loss of a single contributor when there have been only 60% of structures estimated to be contributing structures makes a huge difference to this potential historic district. Third, if we say the loss of a single contributor does not matter, and if we persist in saying this for other individual developments within this district and beyond, then it is no longer a loss of a single contributor. When, in other words, is it too much and too many? When is it too late to save the historic character of our communities? This is a terrible precedent, and that's what I want on record. This is not one building or site, but all that surround it. How do we protect the contributing properties, especially on each side, so that the developers cannot simply come in and use this new completed subdivision at 1347, which looms over the adjacent buildings, out of scale and out of character, as a precedent for doing it again and again, especially without review, as was the case here. Additionally, the Historic Resources Assessment concludes, quote, the new construction on the site is not compatible with the historic district. This we agree with. They also say the new construction does not impact the potential historic district's ability to be designated as an HPOZ, end quote. This we disagree with. The structure is not compatible. The subdivision and new construction has a significant effect on historic resources.
Thank you very much. We will now be hearing from item 6 applicant.
Hi, this is
You are now unmuted. You have 3 minutes.
Good morning. My name is Aaron Belliston with BMR Enterprises, representative for the project. This is for item number 6, Council File 180107. This item is for the appeal of the categorical exemption that was issued on February 17th, 2017. It's worth noting that this exemption was also part of the parcel map approval issued on October 12th, 2017. The approval was appealed and denied by the East Los Angeles Area Planning Commission, which sustained the Deputy Advisory Agency's determination on December 13th, 2017. Neighbors of the project also filed an appeal on the building permit, which was denied by the Department of Building and Safety on August 14th, 2018. That decision to deny the appeal was then appealed to the Office of the Zoning Administrator, who denied the appeal and upheld the decision of the Department of Building and Safety on March 14th, 2019. Since that time, the project has undertaken additional work to review and respond to the CEQA appeal filed. Sappos Environmental was retained to conduct a Phase 1 historic resource assessment to review the city's decision to not treat the site as a historic resource. After a thorough and exhaustive review by the eminently qualified Ms. Carrie Chastain of Sappos Environmental, based on that research and analysis of property records, the property located at 1347 Lucille Avenue was not eligible or deemed eligible for listing in federal, state, or local historical registers, which are included in Ms. Chastain's findings. Further, the addition of the non-contributing buildings on a single parcel does not impair the potential historic district's integrity, that it would no longer be eligible for a designation as an HPOZ. The site has been studied, counter to the appellant's argument. The study did not find that this particular parcel would impair the eligibility of a district. And please remember that this is a potential district. It is not yet a district, and the city has not undertaken, nor the neighbors undertaken, to move this area to be protected as a district. Thank you so much for your consideration, and we hope that the appeal will be denied.
Thank you. So we will now be hearing public comment from those who wish to speak on various items or general public comment. When I call your last 4 digits of the number, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on. Caller 5998, you now have the floor.
Hello, this is Jean Frost. I'm calling on item 5, supporting the appeal. CEQA is a fact-finding process, and I urge you to support applying this process to find the facts and the truth involved in this case. The approval is a triumph of half-truths. It's not true that the Neighborhood Council endorsed this project. They endorsed it and said they would support it based on the design comments of the Adams-Normandy HPOZ board. And the board, if you read the minutes, did not support this project, but were told by planning staff this was the best they could do. And I referenced the minutes of the meeting and also the testimony from board architect Josh Kolodny. Planning alleges it conforms to the preservation plan. It does in part, but not completely. The First AME Zion Church is very significant.
Your time
and
is now up.
Thank you. Has not been appropriately treated.
Caller 4572, please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Josh Kolodny. I'm here about item 5.
I'm here to speak in support of the appeal that CEQA report should be required for this new development project. Until January of this year, when my term ended, I was the architect member on the Adams-Normandy HPZ board, and the approval that we granted this project was reluctantly done. There's no time here to go into that. The project is currently designed at 5 stories high, is too tall for this district, and especially so is it immediately adjacent to the historic church next door. The developers of the project say this height is necessary to fit in the number of units, but that claim is false. I've had plans reviewed by colleagues who specialize in multifamily housing, and the comments were that with better, more conscientious design, the building should be able to hold the same number of units in a 4-story building. A very glaring aspect of the design is that a great many of the units have bedrooms which are double or triple the size of a typical bedroom in an apartment, and so-called living rooms that are almost unusable, some actually only a 4-foot wide hallway. These super bedrooms account for approximately 30% of the total number of bedrooms in this building and could provide for an occupancy increase of approximately 33%. The building seems underparked as well, even for being in a transit district.
Thank you for your time. Caller 1286, please state your name and the items you wish to speak on. Caller 1286. The clock has been started. Caller 4000. You've now been unmuted. Please
Hi,
state
my
your
name is Doug James,
on.
and I'm speaking on item number 4 in support of the volunteer effort to gain historical cultural monument protection for the Walter Bolenbacher Duplex. Duplex is a keystone on an almost completely intact historical block of 2-story apartment homes. Duplex is also within the proposed National Registry of Historic Places Historic District, and losing this property to a 6-story building would destroy the integrity of this multicultural working-class block of homes and significantly hurt the community effort. Councilmember Weston heard the neighborhood's request and nominated Duplex. And in March of this year, despite some rather obvious attempts by the owner to diminish the inherent importance of the building, the CHC found it did meet the criteria and voted unanimously in support of our efforts, and found that the Duplex exemplifies significant contributions to the broad cultural, economic, and social history of the city and our community as representing 1930s working-class housing. It also embodies the distinctive characteristics as an exemplary 1-over-1 grand stair duplex in the French Norman Revival architectural style. We are a diverse, multicultural neighborhood and proud of the legacy that this community represents. This is not anti-development. One look at the plans for the neighborhood and pending projects demonstrate that we are participating in redevelopment.
Your time is now up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Caller 3794, please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Yes, this is Walter Dominguez. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is for item number 4. I'm a member of the Pico Neighborhood Council on the board, as well as on the Land Use Committee for the Pico Neighborhood Council, and this is a major priority for us. The Bolenbacher Duplex lies within the proposed National Registry of Historic Places application, which is being considered now. It has tremendous community support. The board, the Pico board, voted unanimously in favor of this project and preserving the Bolenbacher Duplex under the historical cultural monument status. So this is very important to the community. Councilman Wesson has understood the tremendous support the community has and the involvement in building this coalition to preserve this corner of Wilshire Vista. And this duplex is a key element in the middle, and a 6-story or 5-story building would be completely out of character and would definitely impact the historic status of the entire effort. So once again, we are very much in favor of historic cultural monument status for the Bolenbacher Duplex. Thank you.
Caller 5998, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you. The clock has been started.
Okay, this is Jean Frost. I had spoken earlier, and it's on item 5, and I urge you again to support the CEQA appeal because
All right,
CEQA...
thank you so much.
Okay, all right.
Caller 9030, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Hi, I'm calling in regards to item number 4, Orange Grove. And I'm a property owner in an adjacent area. It just seems to me that the process of nominating properties for cultural or historical importance is being exploited by a few people who are interested in discouraging development in these neighborhoods, especially when studies have been done and properties have been found to be not relevant historically. Yeah, so it's a general comment, but I'd like to state that for the record. Hello?
Hello, you're still on the clock.
Oh, I'm done. I don't need any more time.
Caller 3794, please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hello, this is Walter Dominguez. I think I got double billed here on the queue, so I already spoke about in favor of the Bolenbacher duplex.
Okay,
thank you.
Thank you so much. Caller 1983, you're now unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Thank you. This is Stuart Waldman, President of the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. I'm calling on item 3. We'd like to express our support for the item and thank Councilmember Krikorian for bringing this forward. Supporting parents and enabling them to return to work is an integral component of our economic recovery, especially as Angelenos begin to slowly return to work. However, child care providers cannot be part of the solution if they've been shuttered due to financial challenges associated with COVID-19. Providing resources for our child care providers and making it easier for them to operate will help ensure that parents can return to work with the peace of mind that their children are being cared for in facilities that can adhere to new health guidelines and operate without fear of a looming closure. We must support the child care industry. Thank you for your time.
Caller 0030, you are now
Hi,
unmuted. Name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, this is Dean Walraff from Advocates for the Environment. I'm the appellant's attorney for item number 5, and he lost a lot of his time kind of looking around for me. Is it possible I could get a little more than just 1 minute?
No, I don't believe that's possible at this time. We did select your name and your number. I believe you're listed under another number, but you do have 1 minute.
Okay, thank you. So I'm a land use CEQA attorney, and the categorical exemption being used for item number 5 is inappropriate. There are 2 problems. It requires compatibility with general plan policies, which are not there, but it also, there's an exception to those exemptions in CEQA requiring that, quote, a categorical exemption shall not be used for a project which may cause a substantial adverse effect in the significance of a historical resource. So this is may cause, the possibility, not we don't have to show that it will cause. The big historical resources in question are the district as a whole, the HPOZ, but also the First African Methodist Episcopal Zion Church right next door. The project will shade the sun windows, but also its mass. The mass of this project right next to it is so huge that it dwarfs that building. And the HPOZ... Okay, thank you.
Caller 7719, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
It's Eric Brevin, and I'll speak on all items and a general public comment.
So you have 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, for starters, I'd like to reference item number 7, the mayor's veto. Here you have the City Market project in which Weezer in CD14 had negotiated, downward, of course, all the important aspects like money for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and other things. And he modified it so that it could be migrated. The City Council voted for this, which is astonishing, to put it into the CD14 Weezer, kind of slush fund for public benefit, of course. Now the mayor's undoing that. But, it's really raising a lot of questions about what happens when David Rue gets Universal to give a big community benefit trust fund payment, and how that is any different than the other kinds of illicit payments that are being made to Mr. Weezer in the bathroom, because the residents don't really have a voice in the way that money gets deployed, is what we've discovered. And we've been asking in our neighborhood for near the Metro Red Line and Universal one single bathroom for decency, just a public toilet. There is one that could take the gate down, but we get nothing, and neither Universal nor Rue nor Krikorian do anything about it. And yet they've got hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars from NBC Universal who are busy flying, and congratulations to Fritz. He's a great weatherman. I love that guy. My first job was right next door to him. But that's bad. And moving on to the other items on the agenda, I would say it's great that Krikorian is looking to eliminate change of use fees for single-family residences that want to get into the child care business, as long as it's not next to his house, I assume. This is one of those things where, it should never have been a big problem or a highly regulated, over-regulated kind of thing. But now the question is anything going to happen, or is this just going to be one of those, hey, looks good, kick it down the road for a while? I hope that they can make it easier so that people can take care of their children as needed. I'll just say one word about the cultural historical monument. I beg your pardon?
Thank you. That's your time.
Hello? What about...
Thank you. We'll have 20 more minutes of public comment. So if folks, as soon as your name is called and your number is called, if you could get going, because we've got to wrap up in 20 minutes. Thank you.
Caller 8147, please state your name and the items you'd like to speak on.
Good morning. My name is Ellen Riato. I'm the Executive Director of the South Park Business Improvement District in downtown Los Angeles, and I'm calling to provide comment for item number 3. I am calling to offer my support for Councilmember Krikorian's motion to make it easier for early childhood education facilities to open in Los Angeles. My district in downtown LA currently has over 12,000 residents, and our horizon is looking like we are going to be tripling in the next 3 years or so. And one of the most asked for amenities in downtown from the residential community is access to early child care education. In addition to this amenity, it's a huge economic development generator as parents go back to work, and supporting child care can be a path for economic opportunity for historically disadvantaged communities. So I'll yield the rest of my time, but thanks to Councilmember Krikorian for his leadership on this issue.
Thank you. Caller 8191, you are now unmuted. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Yes, I'm Ann Fisher, and I'd like to speak on public comment. My son, who had a history of drug abuse, became homeless, and he had taken housing with a bunch of unhoused individuals near the LAX. There are multiple buildings there that are condemned but are allowing numerous families and individuals to live within them. I would like to state that they could be rehabbed or torn down or at least assisted with the utilities so that they can have working toilets, sewer, heat, and water. It seems to be there's a lot of money to be putting up new buildings and high-rises, state-of-the-art, beautiful, but we can't rehab the buildings that are already there or tear them down and use that land for our homeless or our low income. Thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you. Caller 1248, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, Mimi, CD4. I'd like to speak on item 7 and general comment, please.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. We need affordable housing. This is a pandemic, a crisis we've not seen before. Thousands are already on the streets because they can't afford housing in Los Angeles. And after all the layoffs, thousands more families are in danger of becoming homeless this year or next year as well. I know you guys probably cringe hearing about Faisal now, but we know he took a $20,000 donation from developers of City Market LA just 2 months before he gutted the affordable housing requirements in their project. Since being arrested, we know it's been confirmed Faisal was deliberately reducing affordable housing and union requirements for developers who bribed him. Y'all are really going to stand for this? We're not stupid. We're looking into everything that you guys do. We're looking into all of you. So if I were you, I'd be careful and do everything I can do to get on the good side of the people and your constituents. But what do I know? I yield my time. Defund the police! Defund the police! Defund the police! Defund the police! Thank you.
Got to stay on topic.
Caller 1007, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Herbert Sample. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm calling about item 4 in support of the cultural heritage designation for that property. I am the former co-owner of that property. My brother grew up there, or half our childhood there, and we owned it for about 12 years after our parents died. You have an email from me that already explains why we're in support of this. I just want to say that on page 10 of the Davidovich-Stein letter, sections A through E are entirely nonsensical. At the top of page 12, where the writer paraphrases me, highly misleading and inaccurate. We would not have sold this property to this current owner had we known they were going to try to build a 5-story building there. I think that's all I have to say. Is that all the time I have?
Yes. Yes, it is. Thank you for calling.
Okay, thanks.
Caller 6176, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is Philip. I live in Skid Row, and I'd like to speak on item 7. I'm calling in because, thank you. I'm calling in because downtown LA desperately needs affordable housing, and disgraced city council member Faisal clearly has not helped in that regard. And on number 7 specifically, we know he took a $20,000 donation, quote-unquote donation, from the developers of City Market LA, and then proceeded to gut the affordable housing and union requirements for that development. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Caller 4208, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the item you'd like to speak on.
Hey, Rob Kwan. I'd like to speak on item 7 and start by clearly stating that I think John Lee should recuse himself from this vote because it's ultimately rooted in the Faisal Englander corruption scandal that he was a witness to and fly on the wall for, at least. The Faisal cloud hangs over all. He was enabled by a culture of silence and deference on this council where you don't really scrutinize the mayor's planning commission appointments, where you don't question the development in a council member's district, and where you definitely don't question the development if it's one in the Plum Committee chair's district. That's why Huizar felt emboldened. Jose Huizar was stripped from his committee that he chaired here, and all the rest of them about 18 months ago, merely because he was the subject of an FBI raid. Whereas John Lee has been interviewed by the FBI multiple times. His boss is pleading guilty next week. 3 people on that Vegas trip have been arrested so far. Given his ties to these individuals, John Lee shouldn't be on any committee, and he sure as hell shouldn't be on the Plum Committee given the context.
Thank you.
So, yeah, hope you recuse yourself from this one.
Caller 6634, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
This is Aaron. I'm calling to speak about item number 4, the Bolenbacher Duplex. I'm a neighbor in the Wilshire area, and I'm calling in support of the Historic Cultural Monument designation. 54 South Orange Grove. It is a 2-story duplex, 1/1, and is located in such a site in our block that is kind of holding the rest of the block together in terms of the integrity of the our district. And I encourage you to join our councilperson who is in support of this designation and protecting it. Thank you. That's my
Caller 3157, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
My name is Ruth Scribner, and I wish to speak on item number 4. I am in support of designating the Walter Bolenbacher Duplex located at 1054 through 1056 South Orange Grove Avenue as an historic cultural monument. In March, the Cultural Heritage Commission voted unanimously and designated historic cultural monument status to this duplex. Our neighborhood has raised over $22,000 for an in-depth historic study confirming that this duplex is a contributing structure of a historic district as identified by Survey LA, and it qualifies for placement on the National Register of Historic Places. The hearing is scheduled in August via Zoom from Sacramento to confirm historic status of this district. I also am a member of the Wilshire Vista Neighborhood Association Board, and the president, Meg McComb, has granted me designated speaker to represent our neighborhood association as being in full support of HCM designation. This is a multicultural, much treasured.
Thank you. That's your time.
Thank you.
Caller 8408, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Yeah, hi. My name is Peter Flynn. I'd like to speak on item 7 and general public comment.
You now have 2 minutes.
Great. Thank you very much. First off, to item number 7, as the other callers have said, you can follow the money on this one. We know that Jose Huizar took $20,000 from City Market, LA, 2 months before destroying and gutting the affordable housing requirements in this project. It's an abomination. It's an abomination when it first happened, that it got through this committee, that it got through the full council, and we are lucky that the mayor vetoed it before even seeing the fact that the Huizar indictment had come down last week, right? So this committee really needs to figure out how to take a proactive stance to restore any trust that you hope to possibly have. And that means looking at this development and saying to the people who bribed my council member, I live in CD14, that they can't do this and that they are no longer welcome in the public sphere in Los Angeles. Their money isn't welcome, their developments aren't welcome, they aren't welcome. We will run them out of public space in Los Angeles. Get out of our city, get your money out of our city. We do not want you here. For general public comment, John Lee, dude, you need to be off this committee yesterday. City staffer B, going to Vegas with Englander, you are an embarrassment to the council. And it's a further embarrassment that you are allowed to stay. This is the same thing we saw happen with Huizar. His office was raided by the FBI, and you guys just let him sit there. John Lee, you are the new Huizar, and you will hear about it every single meeting and every single day of the rest of your career until you retire, because you need to get out of public life. You need to get out of public life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Caller 7199, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, my name is John Berkson, and I'm calling on item number 4. We are a community engaged in asking to be part of the conversation for planning thoughtful growth. We urge the committee to ensure this property, I'm talking about the Walter Bolenbacher Duplex, and its contextual district is preserved by supporting the neighborhood nomination for the Walter Bolenbacher Duplex. Letting this building stand as a monument it already is to when Los Angeles built homes, not just for wealthy luxury renters, but for working class families to own, thrive, and contribute to the culture that is Los Angeles. Please hear us. Thank you, and I yield my time.
Thank you. Caller 9971, you now have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. My name is Camilo. I'm speaking on items 5 and 7 in general public comment. With regard to the development on in item number 5, I completely disagree with the terms just in general, because housing in this city, we can't even apply for Section 8. Section 8 is completely unavailable. The terms of low-income housing in the city are for people who make up to, if you're a single person, $39,000 a year, which is $20 an hour. We're fighting for $15 an hour for some reason, when that only gets us $28,000 a year, and people who make $15 an hour will never get approved for housing when they're going up against people who make $20 an hour. And as for the reality of people who live in the city right now, the minimum wage is $13.25, which means that's only $25,000 a year. And again, there's no Section 8, there's no support for low income, and all the development in the city goes to hotels and developments such on item 5, which are completely inadequate. And sure, everybody in the community will support improving the community, but developers don't tell them the terms on which they think the community should improve, and that's how they get support for it. So I completely disagree with that development. I urge the City Council to move forward on exploring any option that would actually make housing in this city that is inclusive of the community who actually lives here. In general, I would think that development should take first AME Zion Church into account in how it's constructed. As for item 7, that entire development is completely corrupt and is emblematic of the corruption that lies on the entire council. Anybody who isn't John Lee or Jose Huizar is still complicit in their silence by not committing to developments that actually have affordable housing guidelines that are fair to the people in the city. So I urge all of you to actually be responsible, caretakers of the city, and in every single development that is up right now for approval or passage, or even in the midst of development, you should re-examine those terms.
Thank you. Your time is now up. Caller 6876, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the item you want to speak on.
Yes, hi. My name is Jane Galbraith. I'm speaking on item number 4, and I would like to voice my approval and expectation that Plum will approve the HCM for the duplex on South Orange Grove. About a year ago, some of us realized that some of these buildings within our district were targeted for multi-story, multi-family structures, and the duplexes and fourplexes and other historic buildings would be torn down and replaced by buildings that were out of character with the neighborhood. And we started a grassroots neighborhood campaign and formed something called Save Wilshire Vista. And we've been hugely successful in garnering property owners and residents of the northwest quadrant of this neighborhood to pursue a historic designation. And so within this historic designation is the duplex, which has been recognized by the Cultural Heritage Commission as an architecturally significant contributor to our neighborhood. And it would be a destruction and It would devalue the neighborhood as a whole historic district if it were replaced. So we are advocating for approval. Thank you very much.
Caller 1474, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the item you want to speak on.
Good morning. Michael Shilstone with Central City Association, commenting on item 3. We're very supportive of the motion to make it easier for early childhood education facilities to open in Los Angeles. In May, we published a white paper focused on expanding opportunities for ECE in schools in downtown LA. And we're pleased to see that 2 of our key recommendations are reflected in this motion. One which would streamline approval processes, and another which would explore the use of public parks to meet child care facilities requirements for outdoor space. We've also submitted a letter offering additional suggestions for promoting these facilities, including enabling schools by right in areas that lack them, incentivizing the provision of ECE facilities in new developments through tools like the density bonus, allowing more flexibility for existing buildings to be converted to ECE in schools via adaptive reuse, and considering using city-run libraries for ECE. We believe access to ECE in schools is a critical issue for downtown and our city, and is even more important now amid our economic recovery. We're committed partners on this, and we're grateful for Councilmember Krikorian's leadership on this issue. Thank you.
Caller 9412, you now have the floor. Please state your name and the item you wish to speak on.
Armando Flores, item 3.
You now have 1 minute.
Armando Flores with the Valley Industry and Commerce Association, VICA. We would like to express support for item 3. I did want to point out that the $263 million for ECE facilities that is referenced in the motion has been swept. This is why it is even more important now to support this industry and make it easier for facilities to open by streamlining the process. Child care providers are both essential workers and small business owners who provide critical service to our communities. They enable parents to work with the peace of mind that their children are being cared for in safe, nurturing environments. In Los Angeles, we have an early childhood facilities crisis, which has been exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. The city can begin to address this crisis by supporting Councilmember Krikorian's motion, which would make it easier for child care providers to operate in the city. We urge you to move this forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes our general public comments. Thank you to the staff and everybody who waited on the phone to talk and provide input to our proceedings. We will move on with our regular business. Mr. Mejia, could you read item number 2 into the record for our consideration?
Yes, Councilman. However, prior to item 2, we were considering item 6, Councilman. I don't know if you want to dispose of that item. The planner spoke, and I believe the applicant and the appellant spoke on this.
Right. So if it makes more sense to front load the appeals, we can definitely do that. I'm fine with beginning with item number 6.
Okay. So I believe that the appellant spoke. I'm not sure if the applicant has spoken for item 6. If we could confirm that.
We gave, yes.
This is Jane Choi for the record from planning. Yes, the applicant's representative, Aaron Belliston, spoke.
Okay, and I believe the planner has presented the item, Councilman. Would you like to take the action on that item?
Yes, if there are no questions and comments from members, I'll move that we...
Would you like me to read it into the record, Councilman?
Yes, yes, please.
Yes, the action, if the committee agrees, Councilman, is to deny the appeal by Catherine Goodes on behalf of the Lucille Avenue Neighborhood Association and thereby sustain the East Los Angeles APC's determination that the project is exempt from CEQA for a preliminary parcel map for the subdivision and construction of 3 small lots for the property located at 1347 North Lucille Avenue, in addition to the revised findings that were stated by, as part of the record by Principal Planner Jane Choi today.
Excellent. If there's no objection, that'll be the order. Seeing none, that'll be the order.
Item 2.
Yes, Ms. Ryan, so does that conclude our appeals for this meeting?
No, Councilman, that concludes one of the appeals. The second appeal would be item 5. Not sure if you want to jump into that.
So let's go to item 5.
Councilman and committee members, item 5 is a categorical exemption. Again, this is a CEQA appeal that has been filed by Mr. James Childs. The project is located in CD8. He's appealing the appropriateness of the categorical exemption. This is to demo 3 non-contributing commercial buildings and to construct a 45-unit mixed-use apartment complex that will include affordable units in CD8.
Good morning. My name is Michaela Torresgill with Los Angeles City Planning's Office of Historic Resources. Before you is an appeal of the Class 32 categorical exemption for a project involving the demolition of 3 non-historic commercial buildings and the construction of a 5-story, 65,140 square foot, 45-unit mixed-use apartment building with 5 units set aside for extremely low-income households. The subject property is a non-contributor to the Adams-Normandy Historic Preservation Overlay Zone. It is an underutilized site containing former automobile-related uses and does not contain any existing residential units. The appellant claims that the project does not meet criteria for a Class 32 categorical exemption, that the project triggers exceptions to the use of the categorical exemption, and that the project requires mitigation to reduce impacts. Staff's responses to the appeal are detailed in the staff report submitted to the council file on June 1st, 2020. In summary, the project qualifies for Class 32 CE because it is an infill development meeting the required criteria in CEQA Guidelines Section 15332. The project conforms to all zoning regulations and meets the guidelines of the Adams-Normandy Preservation Plan, as well as the Secretary of the Interior standards. A historic resources assessment prepared by qualified architectural historians concluded that the project would not result in direct or indirect impacts to historic resources, including the adjacent First Annie Zion Church, a historic cultural monument, or the Adams-Normandy HPOZ itself. Furthermore, there is no substantial evidence that an exception to an exemption applies. Because the project will not result in significant impacts, there are no project impacts to mitigate. The appellant has not submitted any substantial evidence to support claims that the project is inconsistent with applicable general plan policies and zoning regulations, or that the project will result in impacts to traffic, noise, air quality, water quality, or scenic or historic cultural resources. Planning staff recommends that the City Council deny the appeal and sustain the categorical exemption. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Any questions or comments on this, members? All right. Seeing none, Mr. Mejia, you have a recommendation to read into the record?
Yes, committee members. Should the committee agree, the action being to deny the appeal by James Childs of the North University Park Community Association, thereby sustain the South Los Angeles Area Planning Commission determination in approving the categorical exemption from CEQA for a certificate of compatibility for the proposed mixed-use project for the property located at 1421 through 1439 West Adams Boulevard, subject to conditions of approval and as stated by the planner at today's meeting.
All right. If there's no objection, that'll be the order. Thank you, members. And Mr. Mejia, that brings us back to item number 2.
Committee members, item 2 is a city attorney prepared ordinance. It makes amendments to the existing building energy and water efficiency program. City attorney has the ordinance in file.
All right. I believe we have a report report or comments by Eugene Barbeau? Going once. Going twice. All right. I'll recommend that we approve the city attorney prepared ordinance. There's no objection. That'll be the order. That'll take us to item number 3.
Committee members, item 3 is a motion, Krikorian Martinez. It's instructing the Department of City Planning along with the city attorney, CLA, Department of Building and Safety, to make recommendations to streamline the administrative facilities approval process for child care facilities in the city of LA.
All right. Any questions or comments on this? Seeing and hearing none, I'll move that we adopt the motion. Without objection, that'll be the order.
Any comments from council members, Mr. Chair? Not sure if Mr. Blumenfield wanted to speak.
All right, I'll make a quick comment question. First of all, I think this is great. I'm glad that we're doing this. Child care is extremely important, and we need to facilitate it. I was curious, though, how this plays in with the cannabis stuff, where there's a buffer around cannabis locations. So, is there an interplay there that we should be aware of? That staff about that in terms of if someone is pursuing a license and then someone opens up child care, how does that work?
My understanding, Councilman, is that child care facilities are considered a sensitive use, and therefore there has to be a buffer between a sensitive use and the cannabis facilities. City attorney can weigh in as well, Councilman.
This is Terry Kaufman-Macias. Mr. Mejia is correct about that. So there should already be a separation built in to the existing ordinance.
Right. So I guess the question is, how does this impact the licensing process that we're undergoing now? If somebody has a specific location that they're pursuing, and then a child care place opens up tomorrow, or starts pursuing it under these new procedures, does that, and which one wins, so to speak, or is there a timing where once you have your license in, then if somebody opens up a child care, it doesn't affect your license, or how does that work?
Terry Kaufman-Macias, City Attorney's Office. That would generally be the case, but I would have to look at the exact language of the cannabis ordinance to make a complete determination of that, and that's something that we would look at when we're working on the matter.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. Great inquiry and questions, Mr. Blumenfeld. We want to make sure we pay attention to that going forward. Any other questions or comments, members? All right. Seeing, hearing none, without objection, we'll adopt that matter. That takes us to item number 7, Mr. Mejia.
And just to be sure, Councilman, the motion was recommended for adoption, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
And we just moved to adopt it.
Thank you, Councilman. Item 4, Councilman, is a categorical exemption. It's a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission. It's recommending the inclusion of the Walter Bolenbacher Duplex, located in CD10, as a historic cultural monument.
All right. There's been a request to continue this matter until July 28th. One more time. Was that item number 7?
No, Councilman, that was item 4.
Okay. This is Mr. Bernstein.
Yes.
Mr. Bernstein. So we're at item number 4. We're hearing from Mr. Ken Bernstein.
Correct.
Thank you, Councilman. I'm actually going to turn it over today to Melissa Jones, my colleague in the Office of Historic Resources. I'm available for any questions.
Very cool.
Good afternoon, Chairman Harris Dawson and members of the committee. I'm Melissa Jones with City Planning's Office of Historic Resources. Before you today is the Historic Culture Monument nomination for the Walter Bolenbacher Duplex, a 1937 two-story duplex designed in the French Norman Revival architectural style, located at 1054 Orange Grove Avenue. This nomination was initiated by Councilmember Wesson of the 10th Council District. Upon review of the nomination against the three criteria of the Cultural Heritage Ordinance and testimony provided at the public hearing, the Cultural Heritage Commission found that the subject property meets two of the three criteria for designation. The Commission found that the property exemplifies significant contributions to the broad cultural, economic, or social history of the nation, state, city, or community as representing 1930s workforce housing. The committee also found that the Walter Bolenbacher duplex embodies the distinctive characteristics of a style, type, period, or method of construction as an exemplary 1/1 grand stair duplex in the French Norman Revival architectural style. As illustrated by the subject property, the grand stair duplex typology is characterized by a prominent staircase ascending to the second floor unit's entrance from a small patio on the lower level. Two-story stacked duplexes such as the subject property were popular in the 1920s and 30s to fit the image of a single-family house. Based on these findings, the Cultural Heritage Commission unanimously recommended declaring the property a historic culture monument. This concludes my report, but I'm available for any questions that the committee may have. Thank you.
All right, committee members, before we engage in any discussion with staff, I want to make sure we get the opportunity to hear from Council District 10. I believe we have a representative on the line.
Yes, good morning, council members and Chairman. Liz Carlin on behalf of Councilmember Wesson and CD 10. Thank you so much for hearing this item and taking public testimony today. We're here on behalf of our stakeholders, our Pico Neighborhood Council, our Wilshire Vista Neighborhood Association, and Save Wilshire Vista, that has organized in support of nominating Walter Bolenbacher Duplex to be declared historic. We appreciate the work that planning staff has done and Cultural Heritage Commission work that's been done. And we're here today to ask for your yes vote in support of moving this forward to a cultural historic monument. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative from Council District 10. Any questions or comments from members on this? Price, Cedillo, Lee, Blumenfeld. All right, seeing none, we have a recommendation before us, Mr. Mejia.
Yes, Councilman. Should the committee agree to approve the inclusion of the Walter Bolenbacher duplex located at 1054 South Orange Grove Avenue in CD 10 in the city's list of historic cultural monuments?
All right, without objection, that'll be the order. Thank you. That takes us, I believe, to item number 7.
Correct, Councilman. This is item 7. This is the mayor's veto relative to the disapproval of the development agreement ordinance between the city and Marketplace and the mayor's request to make changes to the public benefits section 2.31 of the development agreement ordinance.
Excellent. There's been a request to continue that till July 28th. If there's no objection, that'll be the order.
Very good.
All right, seeing none, can you let us know what other items we have for consideration?
There are no further items, Council.
All right, so that concludes our business for today. Thank you to everybody who made this meeting possible and who labored through all of our technical challenges. We thank you for helping us facilitate the people's business. We are adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.